Good morning. Welcome to the No Fear Job Search webinar series. My name is Linda and I'm the marketing coordinator here at Jobscan. If you're not familiar with Jobscan, we are a Seattle-based company dedicated to making the best online tools for job seekers. We put the No Fear Job Search webinar series together in response to, all the stress and strangeness in the world and in the job market right now. Our goal with this webinar series is simply to get as many job seekers as we can in front of the people and the tools that can help them right now. So today's webinar is the third of 15 in the No Fear Job Search webinar series. I know some of you guys have attended our previous sessions, and we hope to see you in some of our future sessions as well. So you can check out the entire series at jobscan.co/no-fear. I am delighted to turn it over today to today's presenter, Mahdi Kafi. Thanks for joining us, Mahdi.
Oh, thanks for the invite, Linda. I'm super happy to be here. So, welcome everyone. My name is Mahdi. I'm super happy to be here today and talk about how to nail a video interview. So just before we start, I'm just gonna introduce myself a little bit. I'm currently an IT consultant at DXC Technology, previously at PwC, if any of you know that company as well. I wrote HR consultant as well because I work with HR system called Workday, so I handle many aspects of HR in my client's business. And as many of you saw on my LinkedIn profile, I used to write resumes and cover letters before. So I've helped dozens of professionals just like you increase their visibility online with powerful applications. And just after that, I founded Primal Career, which is basically a YouTube channel where I create videos to help you have the confidence to nail any interview you ever get, including video interviews that we're going to see today. Just before we go over our agenda, I just want to make sure that we're on the same page. When I say video interview, today we're mostly going to talk about pre-recorded video interviews. So you have the questions and then you pre-record yourself before sending your answers to the employer. We will not mostly be talking about like Zoom meeting, live video interview meetings like Zoom or Hangout, but 90% of the tips that you'll see, especially the gears and the body language and anything else like that, will be applied to those kind of video interviews. So the agenda for today, our presentation will be divided into 5 parts. Just to make it easy for you to follow. And after each part, we'll have a short Q&A just to make sure everyone is on the same page before going to the next section. So first, we'll discover how video interviews really work. And spoiler alert, it's not what to think because there are so many things going on behind the curtains that I think everyone should know. And then secondly, we'll see some tips on how to beat the algorithm inside video interviewing platform because yes, there are algorithms that study your intonation, your body language, the keywords you use, and more. Third, we'll review the gears you need to have the best video quality possible, even if you're not a camera guy, and even if video is not second nature to you. And fourth, we'll see how to have the right body language on camera, but also how you can practice having the right body language, because just like myself, it's not something I was born with. You'll have to practice to get better over time. And then finally, we'll wrap everything up by talking about how to actually start the interview and then pass it efficiently. So do you have any like quick questions before we start? Maybe?
I think you can dive right into it.
Yeah, all right. So first, why should you prepare for video interviews and why is it a big deal anyway? According to a 2019 HR survey with more than 500 companies surveyed, 60% of them are using right now video technology, and 47 of them say the main reason is to shorten the hiring frame. And that's the keyword I want to focus on shorten the hiring frame. So video interviews let you take the interview when you want, with a deadline in the comfort of your home, and gives you at least a chance to show what you're capable of. Whereas if it didn't exist, companies would have to select even fewer candidates to call for an interview because of the high cost of bringing candidates at the office. And now that platforms are using many tools like artificial intelligence and reporting, well, more and more companies are starting to use it. And especially right now in this pandemic, their use has been boosted, including Zoom, Hirevue, and other popular platforms. So you want to become more accustomed, but you'll have to be like super comfortable so that you don't miss any like job opportunities that you really want simply because you didn't prepare well. But the fact that you're here today says a lot about you, and hopefully you'll have all the tools that the majority of people won't even bother to look up, so you'll be prepped. So let's start with our first section, how video interviews really work. So the tips you'll see in this presentation, like I said, will be can be applied to any video interviewing platform like Hirevue, Hirevue, Zoom, and others. But my examples here will be around Hirevue because it's the #1 platform for video interviewing, and it's the most popular one. So first, when you submit your video interview, a recruiter or an HR manager won't be the first one to see it. It will first be analyzed by the artificial intelligence in the platform and giving you a score based on what the company wants to see in their candidates. So once the results are in, recruiters have a look at them and watch your videos and then make a decision afterward to call you for a final round or not. So what does it mean for you? It means that you first have to make sure you pass the algorithm criteria before a person even watches your video. And don't worry, it's nothing too complicated. The AI will rate the content of what you say, your intonation, and your body language. And that's why you'll be seeing me repeat many times in this presentation that people that succeed in video interviews are really the ones who behave like if it was a real interview. And think about it for a second. In a face-to-face interview, the human being in front of you will judge the same thing. If you talk with a boring tone or if your body language isn't confident, you will not be taken for a final round. So let's see how you can nail these 3 parts, starting with the content of what you say. So the only way the AI algorithm has to judge the content of what you say is if they hear the proper keywords that we're including in the job postings, for example. So we're talking here about soft and hard skills, maybe a certification that you need for the job, or any kind of relevant experience. And just for a quick example, you're applying for a sales job. If you don't say the word sales even once in one of your answers, well, there's a problem somewhere. So the AI will be looking for that. Second is your intonation. Like I said, even in real life, the intonation you use when you speak plays a huge role in how you're being perceived. So the AI will try to replicate that as well. So for example, if you say that I'm a motivated individual, but with a boring tone, the AI might judge that as dishonest and won't give you marks for it. But if you say it like in a confident way, most likely the AI will believe you, if I can say, and then give you the proper score. The last one is your body language. I think that everyone knows that most of our communication as human beings is nonverbal. So how you choose to sit in your chair, your gestures, your expressions can tell a lot about you. So depending on the role you're interviewing for, companies will already know what traits they want to see. So again, with my sales example, if I tell you what's a good impression of a great salesperson, you might say confidence, persuasion, knowledge, and many more. And they want to see that through your body language, not only through your words. So just to wrap up, you see that the only role of the AI is to make the hiring process faster by doing what a human being would have done anyway. So look if your answers are great, if your intonation is convincing, and if you look like a good candidate throughout your body language. So now that you know how video interviews work in terms of algorithm, let's check out the last part of this section. How do companies choose the questions you'll be asked just beforehand? So many companies will monitor what all their successful employees have in common. So basically, if they see that most high performers are, for example, leaders, have great communication, and have, I don't know, advanced Excel skills, they will want these traits in their new hires as well. So they will choose questions specifically to assess if you're indeed a good leader, communicate well, and maybe add a test to see your Excel skills. So let's see an example here. I don't know if you can see properly my screen, but we see we see that this organization judged that successful hires should have great communication, personal stability, consciousness, responsibility, problem-solving skills, a willingness to learn, and cognition. And we see that James Chambers, the candidate that was judged here, had different scores. So he was intermediate in communication, expert in personal stability, and more. So you also see that, but the last question here, just here, yeah, the last question here is, what is a good score? So you see that James Chambers, like I said, was intermediate in communication. He's an expert in personal stability. So what's a good score? Do you have to be expert in everything? The short answer is that companies don't really know, and that's why you will be tested against your peers that are interviewing at the same time. So after you guys all take the test, your results will be compared. So for example, if everyone in your application scored 5 out of 10 in problem solving, but you scored 2 out of 10, well, that's not a good thing because you're below average. But if everyone scored 4 out of 10 in cognition, but you scored 8 out of 10 on cognition, well, that's a good thing because you're above average. So your role here is to be above the average of people applying to the same job. But how do you score better than your comrades to get the job if you don't know about their score or about their experience and skills? The good news is most candidates don't prepare for video interviews the right way, and we'll see how you can stand out in the next section. So before that, I just want to open up for like maybe a minute just for a short Q&A if you guys have any questions.
Yeah, it looks like we have a few questions here. We have a question from Megan asking, how does the AI deal with non-native English speakers? And similarly, a question from Sana asking, does the AI detect your accent for non-native English speakers?
From my experience and from what I read, Hirevue and other platforms, they don't make the difference. As long as they can hear you and understand you, everything will be okay. For example, I'll just give a quick example. YouTube as well use AI to transcript what you say. And on YouTube, there are many people with access and everything, and it's still able to pick up all the sentences.
Perfect. And then Loretta is asking, is there a weighting of the 3 different algorithm items you talked about?
If there's what? I didn't hear you.
If the 3 different algorithm items are weighted differently or how they're weighted?
No, I think it's all equal.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then we have a question from John asking, which industries are most likely to use these pre-recorded interviews?
Like I said, when I applied at PwC for a consulting job, I got a video interview. But I know a lot in like customer service and sales, everything related to, I don't know, client facing. When you have to work in teams and work with clients, I think you're more likely to get one of these.
That makes sense. And then someone else is asking specifically, what body language is the AI looking for?
We'll see that in section number 4, but basically they will see like how you move, if you're sitting properly, if you smile, and many other things.
All right, so more on that later. And then Lauren asks, do you have to use the exact keywords verbatim to score well, or can you use sort of abbreviations or different verb tenses?
Yeah, when I said you have to use keywords, you don't have to like use all the keywords and speak as the I don't know, the job posting was like talking. But I was just saying like you have to mention like maybe 2 or 3 keywords, relevant keywords for your role, just for the AI to make sure that okay, this answer seems great, and then you can pass to the next round.
Great. I think those are all the questions we have for now.
Awesome. Well, pretty good questions. Yeah, that's good. Awesome. Well, let's move on to section number 2. So in this section, we'll be looking at 3 strategies you need to implement to be the algorithm in most video interviewing platform, but also to please the recruiters who are going to watch the video afterward, because you don't have to forget that even if you pass the round to the AI, a recruiter will be watching the video. So that's why I said that you don't have to speak like the job posting or like a robot, because an actual human being will be watching the video just after that. So for that, you will need to unveil the traits we talked about that the company secretly wants in the new hires. You will prepare interview questions that this company is going to ask you, and we'll see exactly how to find those questions prior to the video interviewing. And finally, we will learn how to optimize your normal answers into super answers for the algorithm. So we'll see 2 methods to find out what companies are looking for in their employees. If you remember well, in my example of James Chambers, they were looking for communication, cognition, personal stability, and everything. All the companies will be looking for different skills, and that's what you need to look for at the beginning. So the first one is simply a Google search. Google can be super useful when you look for the right thing. So simply input the name of your position and then the word skills, and you'll have a long list. And here, in my example, I just wrote consulting skills, and you can see that consulting role, they want creative thinking, problem solving, communication, curiosity, credibility, and many more. So this is pretty straightforward. The second strategy to find those skills is LinkedIn. LinkedIn is not only a social networking app, it's also a search engine. So don't be afraid, just go on the search bar, write the name of the position and then the company. You can choose anyone with a similar role in your city. And then in their profile, you can see a bunch of skills as well that is most likely related to the role. So you can write it down and add it to the list. After you have some skills, after you wrote some skills that you see repeat often, keep them near you, because we will need them in our next section just here. And this is to find relevant questions that you'll be asked. Now, just a short note, you should always prepare popular questions you always hear, like, for example, tell me about yourself, or tell me about a time you made a mistake, or tell me about a weakness of yours. Those are super general questions and should be prepared every time. But in my examples, I will be talking about more specific questions that you'll get for your specific role. So the first way, again, is a Google search. Just input questions to test and then write down one of the skills that you found in the earlier step. In this example, you see what I wanted to see. They might ask me if teamwork is important for them. So we can see, give some examples of your teamwork. Do you prefer teamwork or working independently, etc. And pay attention, because what's funny, when you do those Google search, most websites are dedicated to recruiters. So recruiters might have read those websites to come up with question ideas to ask you. The second way, and my favorite, is Glassdoor. So you might be familiar with this website. You can choose the interview tab, write down the company and the role you're interviewing for, your city, and then you'll have a bunch of other people who share their experience and their questions with you. And just a side note, I like to mention that every time. If you find this stuff valuable on Glassdoor, do not hesitate to share your experience as well, because, well, we're all here to help each other. So you're done with trying to find the interview questions, just write down everything and keep them near you for practice a bit later in the next section. The last strategy before moving on to the gears you need is to optimize your answers for the algorithm. So you know what skills you know what skills they want. You just have to copy paste the job posting and put them in a word cloud. I don't know if you're familiar with word clouds, but it's a website just like wordclouds.com or monkeylearn.com. You copy paste the job posting, and then it will give you a word cloud just like this one. The bigger the keyword and it will be most likely important to mention in your answers. So in my example here, we can see partners, we can see management, insurance program, clients, consulting. This is for a consulting role, so you will want to mention those keywords sometimes, but you will see that most of the time it will come naturally. You don't have to force it, but just keeping it in mind is important for that. And section 2 was pretty quick. Do you guys have any questions before moving on to the gears?
Yeah, we've got a couple questions here. Home is asking, are these video interviews being kept on file by employers?
That's a good question. I think I read it somewhere. I think just for the application, and then no, it's not kept after that, because yeah, there was some questions about data privacy and everything. So no, I don't think they keep them after the role is being filled.
Okay. And then someone else asks, will these video interviews be shortlisted by the software before getting checked by a human or before the recruiter sees it?
I don't like to say shortlisted. It will give you a score out of 10, for example, and then the human being can still watch your video even if you didn't score well, just because, I don't know, you scored very well in one of the categories. So the human being will still have the power to watch your video.
And then Ella is asking, what defines personal stability in an interview?
That was just an example, but if you can find questions that can test your personal stability, I think. Just right off on top of my head, I can't have a question like that because I didn't search for it, but in the example, that company wanted to test that.
And then Sana is asking, out of curiosity, how recent is this video interview movement?
It's been around for a while. Like Hirevue, for example, was founded in like 2006 or 2007. They started using artificial intelligence in 2012, but maybe like in 2014, 15, they started like using it a lot. So yeah, it's becoming a trend right now.
And then Anna would like to know about those word cloud programs you used. Are there any specific ones that you like?
Well, I mentioned two, wordclouds.com and then monkeylearn/wordclouds. Those two are great and they're free, so you can use them.
All right. And then we have a question that asks, how does the AI evaluate the open-ended questions such as tell me about yourself?
I think those type of questions will less be focused on keywords and more on your body language, and then the recruiter will take part of the evaluation more than other questions.
And someone's asking, if you have completed multiple video interviews via Hirevue, would they use what they have gathered about you from those previous interviews for a different position you have applied for later on?
I don't think if it's with different companies. Even if they all use the same tool, your data will not be linked to the tool. It will be linked to the company.
So just think of them as completely separate interviews.
Yeah.
And then Lauren asks, do most recruiters only watch the first few minutes of the video interview, or do they go through?
No, I don't think so. They watch the whole video.
And then Jackie asks, are the core competencies listed by the company in the job description relevant as well?
Not always. That's why you need to search for them.
Okay. All right, I think those are all the questions we have for now.
Awesome. All right. So let's move on to the different gears and technical aspects you need to master a video interview. So you will need to nail your video quality, and that depends on 5 elements that we'll see right here. So first, your webcam, your microphone, your light, your internet connection, and finally, your environment. So you might ask, does that mean you will need to buy a $1,200 camera to have a great image quality in your opinion? And the answer is no. Many tricks that you will learn in this section will help you have the best image quality for no or low cost. And let's start with the webcam. Your image quality starts with the quality of your webcam. So depending on how recent your computer is, you will want to assess if you'll need an external webcam or you can use the built-in camera. In my personal experience, I use my built-in camera because I had a recent laptop, but just in case you need to, here's one of the best and cheapest webcam you can find on Amazon. It works great. I just recently bought one that you can see on screen here from Amazon Canada as well, and it works very well. So just make sure to test it using the camera app on your computer or FaceTime app if you use a Mac. And I think that you can judge by yourself if the image quality is decent. Just as a last note, if you're using your built-in camera and you think that the image quality can be better, don't worry, because I'll show you shortly how you can make it like 10x better at no cost in the light section. So let's move on to the second element, and that is your microphone. Again, on this one, you can use the built-in microphone on your computer or buy an external one, but this time I have a favorite one, and it's actually buying an external microphone. Because using the built-in microphone on any device, whether it's your computer or a camera, is not great. Your sound will be echoey, and depending on your room, and that can distract someone listening to you. And because most external mics are super cheap, and you can see on screen it's like $22, you can have a high quality sound just because you bought that for super cheap. Now, it's not the end of the world. You can still succeed without an external microphone, but as I said, I just wanted to mention that I had a favorite. Either way, you will need to test your microphone just before your interview if you have an external one, or even if you use the built-in. I just showed you two screenshots if you're using a PC or a Mac. So just to make sure that they work properly. So try speaking to your computer and see if the level fluctuates well or not. All right, so remember when I said you could enhance your image quality even if you can't afford an external webcam? Well, like I said, light is here for that. And in my experience trying out like new cameras for my YouTube channel and learning more about filmmaking, you can have the best camera in the world, but if you have poor lighting, it won't do much. And that's why you can take insane pics with your phone with nice natural light and bad pics with a high-end camera in a dark setting. So in this setting of a video interview, 2 lighting sources enough in my experience, even if you see 3. 3 is perfect, but if you have just 2, that works well. And that's exactly what I've done in the past in my PwC interview. Just to show you, here's an example. I have an example of no light and one with 1 lamp. And you can see that my face is pretty lit and is better for people watching my video. All right, just before that, if you don't have any lamps, as I said, you can always use natural light and take the interview in front of a window. But I find it inconvenient because you have to rely on the weather. And for me, I live in Canada, so I can't rely on the weather, especially in winter. So yeah, if you can use just the light in your room as a backlight and then 1 lamp just to light your face, it will be enough. Third, let's talk about your internet connection. So you can have the best camera, the best microphone, the best lights. Your image will still look like this if your internet connection is not on point. So for that, just head over to speedtest.net and then test your internet connection. You will need a minimum of 2 megabytes per second, I think, in download and upload to ensure a good video quality. If you're below that, or if you just want to increase your internet speed, you can go closer to your router when taking your video interview. You can also ask people living with you to stop using the internet for, I don't know, like 20 minutes, the time to take the interview. And by reducing the number of devices connected, you can increase your speed significantly, as you may know already. Finally, our last portion before the next section is nailing your environment. I love showing this dude because it's the perfect example of what not to do. So take your interview somewhere quiet where you know that the lighting is good, whether it's the room light or the windows. Make sure that your background is neutral. We don't want to focus on I don't know, your kids or your bed or anything else in the background. So if you have a home office, it can be a good location, but either way, don't take it on your bed because it will look unprofessional. Even if you have to take it in your room, try to have it set up somewhere professionally. And if you live with people, put a do not disturb sign somewhere so that no one enters your room while you're taking the interview and then we see them in the background. Give them just a heads up, and yeah, you can tell them as well, because in my experience, just a sign is not enough. So just tell them before you start your interview as well. Final thing, you need to test everything before your interview. You can test them one day before the interview and a couple of hours before the interview, or if you're like me, you can test it even like 30 minutes before your interview, because you only have just one chance to have a great impression. So testing won't be a bother. So is your webcam working? How's the image quality? Is your microphone connected to your computer? Can you hear yourself? How's the light? You can test your internet connection one last time. And finally, how's your background? And if you need to make any adjustments, make them beforehand, and then you will be ready to take the interview. Any quick questions before the body language part?
Yeah, GH is asking, how long are these video interviews usually? I think you may have said around 20 minutes.
Yeah, around maybe 15 to 20 minutes, all depending on your company, because you will get around, and I'll be talking about that in section 5. You'll have around like 2 to 6 questions to depend. So depending on the number of questions, it can vary.
Okay. And then we have a couple of questions about your tech. Loretta is asking, are you using the external mic you brought up right now? And are you using those products you shared right now?
Right now I'm using the webcam, but I'm not using the mic. And yeah, I think you can hear me pretty well. So that's the proof that you can use all the built-in. But I have a 2019 laptop as well, so that plays a role.
That helps as well. Grace asks, what is your suggestion for areas with too much light?
With too much light?
So if it's like washing you out, maybe.
Oh, right. Well, I didn't have that problem, but I guess you can choose another room, or maybe place the curtains in a certain way to reduce the light. So that would be the tips I would share.
Right. And then someone asks, is it okay to use my iPhone or smartphone for these interviews?
Yeah. You can use your smartphone for that. A lot of people have done it, and it works great.
Great. And then Peter asks, what do you recommend in terms of dress code during a video interview?
Yeah, we'll be talking about that in this section.
Perfect. And then Alan asks, how do you feel about virtual backgrounds? I know those have become sort of more popular lately.
You mean like a green screen?
Yeah, like a green screen or those, virtual backgrounds on Zoom.
Um, I don't know. Personally, I wouldn't use it because it's not natural, and I really want to have a personal connection with the person watching my video. So I would use my background like in my room. But yeah, I don't know if you really don't have like a good room to shoot your video. Maybe using a virtual background is a good idea for you. But if you have the choice, I would use my personal one.
Right. And then Terry asks, when you are recording a video interview, does it have to be done all at once, or can you pause in between recording the questions?
No, in my experience, you can't pause. When you start the interview, you will record your first question, then it will pass to the second, and then third, and then the end of the interview.
Right, so just continuous.
Yeah.
And then Marilyn is asking if you can share the webcam you purchased on Amazon. What was the name of that again?
It's this one here, the Logitech C9020S Pro.
All right, and then Sarah is asking, do you feel that a stand-up laptop table would be sufficient? So you're standing up rather than sitting down. Do you have a preference?
Well, I'm sitting down, but I guess if you're more comfortable standing up, I don't think it's a problem.
And then Jackie asks, what about the position of the camera relative to your face? Should it be close up or at eye level or above or below?
We'll be talking about that in this section.
All right. And then Paul asks, is the interview a real person asking you the questions or like a computer generated voice?
No, you'll see that an HR manager will pre-record themselves just before, like asking or saying, tell me about yourself with their face. And then you'll see their video saying, tell me about yourself. And then it will be your turn to record yourself. So yeah, it's a human being.
So it's sort of trying to mimic a live interview.
Exactly.
Thanks, Maddie.
You're welcome. So let's go for section number 4. So in this section, I'll be giving you tips on how to act naturally on video, just like you would do, for example, taking a coffee with a friend in your favorite coffee place. So when you're on that level of comfort on video, well, nothing will stop you. And believe me, because I wasn't comfortable on video before, and now I'm getting better, I think. So the number one question I get, and one of you guys asked me that just right now, what should I wear for a video interview? Since I'm at home, some people ask me if they can just wear anything or if they have to purchase a new suit. Well, I will be answering that just right now. The short answer, it really depends on the company you're interviewing for. So some companies will be more traditional and strict, and others more casual and relaxed. So if you don't wear the right outfit, it can seem that you don't match with the company's culture, and we don't want that for you. So what should you wear? You have two options. The number one is the company's about page. Our goal here is to have an inside look at the office of the company or at the company events, and then see what the employees are actually wearing. And according to this pic, we can see that Microsoft, they wear pretty business casual outfits. So for you, you can wear a nice shirt with a no tie, and for women, a nice shirt as well. So yeah. The second strategy, if you don't find anything in the about page, because it can happen quite often, is their LinkedIn page. So again, companies like to show off like their company events and inside looks at their offices. So you can find all those in their LinkedIn company page and have a nice idea of what to wear in your video interview. Your last resort can be to message a current employee. So they are currently working there, and they had an interview just before you. So you can send them a quick message just to ask them for their opinion if you're really not sure. I've shared a quick script for you just to help you out if you need to. Just to send a message on LinkedIn to someone with the same role. So let's see how to naturally speak to a webcam, because believe me, it was hard at first when I first filmed my first videos to stare at that black hole and just speak as you would speak to a human being. But you will see that you get used to it and you become better with practice. So here's a few tips to help you out. First, the angle of your camera. So in a real interview, you're at the same level as the other person. So my question is, why do most people take the interview like the picture I'm showing on the right? The angle doesn't help you and makes it unnatural. And as I said many times during this presentation, the more natural you look and the higher chances you'll have at passing to the next round, because the recruiter, when watching your video, will feel like you were in front of him. So if you have an adjustable chair or an adjustable desk, you can use that to make your webcam at the same level as your eyes, or you can just use a box or a stack of books. It can work wonders, and that's what I used before in my video interviews, and it worked very well. So now that you have your webcam at the same level, you need to make use of it and practice speaking to the webcam and not to your own image like we do so many times. It's hard, but practice makes perfect. And just think about it. When you FaceTime your friend, you're most likely looking at their picture and not at your webcam on your iPhone or on your phone. So that's hard. So that's why you have to practice for it. Just to give you an example, you can clearly see the difference between not looking at your webcam and then looking at your webcam. On the right, you instantly feel the connection because, well, I'm looking at you right in your eyes. A short tip that I use to this day is drawing a smiling face on a post-it and then paste it just above my webcam. You can actually look at something and it makes the other feel like you're looking at him or her right in the eye. So now the last thing that is left is speaking naturally as a whole. So the key here is to make the recruiter feel like you were in front of them, like I said. And the only way you have to assess that is by practicing. And I usually advise my clients to record themselves like 3 times at least, answering 5 questions they found in the earlier steps, just to practice, just to see how they feel about recording themselves. When you record yourself, ask those 7 questions. So can I hear myself well? Do I articulate enough? How's my pace? How's my background? How's my posture? How's my intonation? And am I persuasive enough? When you answer those questions, try showing that video to one of your friends or family member and ask them for their opinion. Because I remember back in the days, I showed a video of mine to a friend and he told me I didn't smile enough. And that's something I totally missed when I assessed my own video. So that's always something good to do. Do you have any last questions before we head to our last section?
Sure, we have a question from Danish asking, what happens if I lose my internet connectivity during an interview? Will it be continued later on, or is that the end?
Yeah, it happens sometimes. In my experience, you will have to contact the technical team at Hirevue or whatever the platform you're using to retake, I think, the questions that you didn't get. But yeah.
And then someone else asks, and I think a lot of people can relate to this, I feel awkward about video interviews. How do I develop that confidence and overcome that self-consciousness?
Yeah, I think it's not the answer that many people want to hear, but the only way you get comfortable is by doing many. And by doing many, I mean failing some video interviews. And that's why I always tell people to start early and to accept any video interview opportunities that they get, even if, I don't know, the company is not what they want at first or anything else, because you will need practice to become better. But just before that, before real video interview opportunities, like I said, you can just use the camera app or a webcam or, I don't know, your phone, and record yourself answering those questions just to get used to it.
Yeah, so we have a question relating to, what software you use to practice recording yourself. Would you just recommend using your webcam?
Yeah, the normal camera app.
And then Loretta asks, what distance from the webcam should we be, and how much of us should be showing on the screen?
Just like right now, I like showing just my shoulders here, and maybe, yeah, just like this. I think I don't want to leave too much space here, just a little bit, and then it will be enough.
And then we have another question here that asks, do you suggest answering short and concisely, or adding points to use all your answer time?
I didn't get it. In your answers, you mean?
Yeah, so should your answers be, short and concise, or should you try to, take up all the time you have?
I like taking all the time if I have things to say. So if you run out of things to say after, I don't know, 45 seconds, you should stop there, because more likely you will say like other unrelated things. So yeah, I think keep it short, but with a lot of details, and we will talk about that in this section as well.
Mm-hmm. And then Sarah says, I know a lot of employers use Zoom for live interviews. Are there any other software programs they use for either live interviews or video interviews?
In my experience, people use Zoom, Hangout from Google, and then Skype. Those are the three most popular ones.
And then Lauren asks, do companies give you a practice run before recording the real thing?
Companies use what? I didn't hear you.
Sorry, do companies give you a practice run before?
Oh, yeah. We will see that in this section, but yes, you will have 1 or 2 practice questions that you can take many times if you want, just before the real interview.
Okay. And then someone is asking, is it rude to ask for an audio interview instead of a video interview?
In my experience, you won't be able to. It will be video interview because people want to see you, just like in a real interview. You start with maybe phone interview, but after that, they will want to meet you, so they want to replicate that.
Right. And then Justin is asking, how many times can you revise your answers, or how many times can you stop and re-record your answers without penalties?
In my experience, you can't. Once you start the interview, maybe your first question, you will have to record it, and then when you press stop, you can't retake it, and you can't watch it back.
Just one shot. Irene asks, how do you minimize background noise, or do you recommend an app or software to do that?
Actually, your background noise will depend on the quality of your microphone. So if you're using the built-in microphone, sometimes you will hear background noise because it's trying to hear everything in the room. But if you're using the external mic, most likely we won't hear anything but your voice.
Alan asks, if you do the practice questions, will those be the same questions used when they start recording?
No, the practice question will always be another question that will not be in the real interview.
All right. Thank you. I think we can move on to how to take the interview successfully.
Awesome. So just to wrap up, so you prepare your questions, the keywords you have to use, you have all the technical aspects ready. Now you practiced a little bit, you ask your friends or family members for feedback. Now you're ready to open the video interview. So most platforms will give you a tour before you can start. And like in video games, many people will skip the tutorial thinking that they will learn when they use it. But the problem is that can work in a video game, but in video interview, you only have one chance, just like I said, to make a good impression. So you don't want to stress about where to press when you're done answering a question or how to pass to the next question. So please, and I repeat it like twice, please take the tour and read the instructions carefully, because it's not hard to use, but I think that reading the instructions and reading like how to use the platform will reduce your stress level and will make it easy for you to take the interview. Next, like I said, you will have a practice question. And again, this is all intended to make you more comfortable using the platform and making sure one last time that everything works well. So please take the practice question just like you would, take the practice question and answer it just like you would in a real question. So look at the webcam, look at your body language, look at the background, and everything else that we saw in this presentation. And what I like with practice questions is that you can watch your video back and assess it, and you can take it many times because you can do that in the real thing. So take as many shots as you need, and then you will be ready. So depending on the company you're interviewing with, you will have 2 to 6 questions to answer. For example, when I interviewed with PwC over 2 years ago, they asked me 4 questions. And you will always have around 30 seconds to think about your answer before the timer starts. Because yes, you will have a timer. Once the timer starts, you will have around 1 to 3 minutes, all depending on the question, to answer the question. The question can be in 2 formats. So I said that the majority of the time it will be pre-recorded questions. So you will see an actual human being asking you the question. But sometimes, but it's more rare, you will have written questions. So instead of a human being asking you, for example, tell me about yourself, it will just be written, tell me about yourself, and you will have to answer either on video or by writing. But that's quite rare, but I like to include it in my presentation just to make sure you can't be too ready for those things. So whether you're writing the answers or you're telling them out loud, here's how you can optimize your answers using the keywords that we previously discussed. So first, I like to say that take those 30 seconds to think about your answer and fully understand your question. And then use the STAR method that I'm sure many of you heard of to answer the questions, especially the situational questions like, tell me about a time and then something. For example, tell me about a time you made a mistake. You will want to give a little bit of context with the situation, then the task you perform, the action that gives a bit more detail about your task, and then the result you got from your action. Here's an example. Even if you're not in accounting and you don't understand the terms, I think it's quite relevant. When you just say develop account payable accuracy, we don't know anything about how you did it, about the results of your action, and it doesn't say much about you. But when you use the STAR method, we can see that you suggested new ideas and techniques, and then exactly what you suggested. So you changed the payment method from check to bank wire, and then the result of your action. So you increase the payment delivery time from 2 days to 1 hour. So when using the STAR method, it's great to give a lot of details, but like I said, make sure you check the timer because you will have around 1 to 3 minutes to answer those questions. So in my experience, no need to always check the timer, but I always like personally to check it after 2 or 3 sentences just to see if I still have time to add some information. But either way, just pace yourself and don't forget to articulate, and you'll be okay. So when you're done answering your questions, how do you usually close your answers? Because most people will say one of those 2 sentences. They will either say, yeah, that's it, or yeah, that's the end of my answer. And that sounds a little bit informal, and there are better ways to wrap up your answer to demonstrate your confidence. So you want your last impression to be on point. And here's how. My favorite technique here is to wrap up my answer and to relate it back to the question. So for example, if they ask me, how do you handle conflict? I would say, to summarize, I always try to, and then summarize what I said. For example, dig deeper and ask questions that will help me understand my teammates' point of view to handle conflicts the right way and find a proper solution. So if you analyze my answer here, I was able to close out confidently and at the same time say another 1 or 2 keywords for the algorithm. And in this example, it's handling conflicts. And this is crucial because the last impression that they will have of me, if I say that, is of a focused person that was able to summarize a 3-minute answer to 1 or 2 sentences. Now you're done. You have submitted your last answer. Now what? Just before you leave and close your computer, I always say you have to follow up. And think about it, because after watching like 30 videos of candidates all answering the same questions, who will you remember most if you were a recruiter? You will most likely remember the ones with outstanding answers, but you will also remember the ones who follow up and thank you for the opportunity. And that's exactly what you have to do. Writing a follow-up email doesn't take more than 5 minutes in my experience, so you simply have to thank them for the time they took to invite you and then review your videos, because that's a lot of work. You can share a thing or two that you learned during the interview, because you will see when they pre-record their questions, they can tell you more about their culture, about the way they do things in that company, so you can share that as well. And then finally remind them about your skills and how they match the role. I give you here a sample script just to help you in the follow-up email. And just think about it. After that, most recruiters or HR managers will really appreciate that action. And even if they forgot about your answers, they will say like, oh, okay, I remember it's the one who worked at company XYZ and know how to handle that software and has that skills. So it's a great reminder for them as well. So this presentation was quite long, and you learned a lot of information, and that's why I created a checklist for you guys that was used many times in the past. So if you want to download it, you can use the link on screen here. It's basically a wrap-up of everything that we saw. You can check all the boxes just before your video interview, just to make sure that you didn't forget anything. I can send the link later on in the chat. And I simply want to say thank you for attending. If you have any last questions, well, I'm here. And yeah.
Awesome, thank you, Mahdi. And yeah, as we get to the top of the hour here, it's almost time to wrap things up. So if you have any last questions for Mahdi, feel free to enter them in the chat. And again, try to keep them to a general nature, and we'll try to address them. And so we have a couple questions about the timer in the video interview. So someone is asking, will the timer be counting down as you speak, or do you need to set up your own timer? And then, yeah, just...
No, it will be counting down, and you will see it on screen.
Okay. And Amanda asks, should you thank the interviewer as a final ending during the video interview?
Not really, because you will not have the occasion, I think, because the question will be, tell me about yourself, and then you will just answer it.
Right. And we have a question about the follow-up. When do you think the follow-up should be sent, or what is a good timeline to send?
Within 24 hours. That's what I usually do.
I want to thank everyone for joining us today, and thank you again, Mahdi, for that presentation. I think we all learned a lot from it and really enjoyed it. And that's it for today, but we hope to see some of you at our future webinars this week. And I just want to wish all of you the best of luck in your job searches and in just navigating this very difficult situation at this time. Thank you, Maddie.
Well, thank you, Linda, and thank you for everyone who attended.
Online listings make applying for jobs easier than ever. So why aren't you getting a response from employers? Easy applications means more applicants, which means more competition. Leading companies use automated software tools called applicant tracking systems, or ATS, that weed out many resumes before they even reach a real person. So how do you cut through the noise? With Jobscan. Jobscan uses artificial intelligence to get your resume past the filters. We've reverse engineered their systems to create an intelligent tool that provides proprietary insights to optimize your resume at a much deeper level, so you can tailor your resume for each job based on precise keywords and skills most valued by the company. Jobscan can even optimize your LinkedIn profile so company recruiters find you before you even know they're looking for your skill set. Let Jobscan maximize your chances with every application. Register for your free account and run your first scan today.